Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot him in the head.
We are doing Shoot Me Straight here with Dave Fields and Eddie Gallagher, and we have a awesome guest, Baker Leavitt, today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy that you are here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming in today and flying in. So, we discuss whatever we want to discuss. We're already going, but I guess you are the Director of Strategic Relations for Black Rifle.
I am.
And you are one of the co-founders of Kill Cliff.
Yep.
And then you, among other things that we can get into.
Stay busy.
Yeah.
Constantly working. Yeah, so, I grew up in Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up playing sports like most kids in the South, and pretty good high school football player, and then went to a junior college and played football there for 2 years and transferred to the University of Georgia, where I ended up graduating, and I got into real estate, did really, really well from 2002 to say 2008, 2010. But in 2008, everything in the real estate, the economy crashed. I was Lehman Brothers, too big to fail. Dodd-Frank Act was enacted. Like, everything just went completely insane, and I ended up losing literally everything I had. Felt sorry for myself for about 48 hours and realized that didn't accomplish anything at all, and decided I was going to go to NYU and get a master's degree in Arabic. And so I started going through the Defense Foreign Service Agent program, and I got like 2 steps into that. Because at the time, like when you're at the top of the mountain and like you lose everything,
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, screw everything. I'm going to do something completely different. And my brother had just gotten out of he was a Force Recon Marine. He'd just gotten out. This is 2000. He just started medical school. He's like, you should go in the military, because like my whole like pursuit of like monetary success and everything was just completely and totally like soiled with, because it's like, you're at the top of the mountain and everybody supports you, but there's a chink in your armor and like everybody wants you to fail. Like they just come after you.
Yeah.
And it was awful. So, and I got to New York, and my first night there, my car got towed. And I was like, as punishment, I'm going to walk the 80 blocks to the impound lot, which is down on like one of the piers. And so I started walking, and I got 2 blocks into that walk. And I looked around and I was like, if my dick was hanging out of my shorts right now, there's not a person here that would care. No one cares about my problems. Everybody's got their own. I'm going to be okay. And so I started a CrossFit apparel company called Tupood about 6 months later in December of 2010. And then in January 24th, 2011 is when we really officially started Kill Cliff. And so I realized that, so I had one company in the CrossFit space, and I had another company that was in the fitness space. It didn't really, Kill Cliff at the time didn't have an identity. Todd didn't know or GW, they didn't know what they were going to do with it. And so I was like, this would work in the CrossFit space. It's a recovery drink. It doesn't have sugar.
Yeah.
It's not an energy drink, 25 milligrams of caffeine. And I introduced Kill Cliff to my Tupood customer base, and they accepted it. And I was like, holy shit, mobile customer base. So we grew Kill Cliff from like $0. We had 8,500 cases in a warehouse, no money, and no plan.
Did you take on initial investment at all?
No.
A little bit?
Enough to pay for that first production run.
Just angel money?
No, not even that. Like just enough to pay for that first production run, which was probably in the thousands.
Oh.
I'd say
$100,000 or something.
Yeah, $100,000, something like that. But I think that was more a loan and like a line of credit than it was an actual like, here, I want to own part of the company. So we took Kill Cliff from $0 to $16 million in 3 years.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, and like I don't take credit for anything on this planet. I'm a spoke in a wheel, and like I'm a teammate. And I like if you're pushing a boulder up a hill, I'm going to get behind you, and I'm going to do the work of multiple people, and I'm going to bury my shoulder into it. But like I don't take credit for stuff because, in my opinion, that's not why I do what I do. Like I don't really give a shit about pats on the back. You're going to know that I'm good and I provide value, or you're an idiot and I don't want to work with you. Like that's the way I look at things. And but I will take credit for the early stages of success in Killcliff. And what I like to do is when I look at companies like early stage companies and then middle stage and long stage, like I like to pretend that I can remove people from the equation. Black Rifle Coffee. If I pull Evan Hafer out, what happens? It doesn't exist. If I pull Matt Best out, that's another big, huge chess piece. That's the queen on the chessboard. And
don't forget Jared.
JT hasn't changed. He's still on the chessboard. He's occupied multiple pieces. He's been a knight, a rook, a pawn. He plays multiple pieces.
Oh, yeah.
I love JT. But, we went from $0 to $16 million in 3 years at Killcliff, and mostly in the CrossFit space. And we were the first RTD, which stands for ready to drink. Anytime you have a product that you can walk into a convenience store and buy it and consume it, that's an RTD, ready to drink. We were the first RTD product to get chain-wide authorization in all of GNC. And that was probably to this day one of my greatest strategic moves with how I met the buyer, the decision maker, and just kind of massaged that relationship. And I remember he walked into the CrossFit Games in 2013, got in the gate and placed a PO with it inside of 10 feet inside of that stadium because he saw what was going on. And he was like, oh, my God, we got to get this. We've got to get CrossFitters into GNC. And I was just like, absolutely. In my head, I'm like, no fucking CrossFitters going into GNC. That's just not going to happen. So, and then we were also the first RTD to get chain-wide authorization in Vitamin Shop. Super cool. And that was really my first experience at big boy business. And I was like, oh, we're going to be rich. We're going to have jets and all this crazy shit, Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Little did I know that GNC was a nightmare. So it's retail stores, C-stores, convenience stores, stuff like that. The only thing they have to offer you is real estate, their shelf space. And if you're not paying rent and your churn rates and your stuff's not coming off the shelves fast enough, that's not a good thing. So you have to put a ton of money and marketing and resources into that. But the best way I could describe GNC is 8-foot ceilings, metal filing cabinets. Think about that's it's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you walk into their headquarters, dude, and it's like going into a time warp in the 70s and 80s. Really? It's crazy, yeah. So we blew up. Killcliff blew up. Everything was awesome. We were kings of the world, man. I would say Killcliff in the early days was a much more less sophisticated version of Black Rifle in the early days. Evan assembled a phenomenal team, and Killcliff was years ahead of that on a much smaller version, a much smaller scale. We didn't have the resumes and the video chops and the content chops that Matt and JT and those guys had. But same kind of business model. Cool people dominate a space. And so fast forward to 2014, Tyson Foods, which we all know Tyson Foods, they did $38 billion in sales. They, through CrossFit, I had been friends. One of our first auto subscribers was a guy by the name of Kavanaugh, and he was a big shot at Tyson Foods. And I remember he called me one day. He's like, hey, Baker. I was like, hey, you want to place an order? He's like, no, man, we want to invest. I was like, who is we? He's like, well, I work for Tyson Foods. And I was like, in the words of the Virgin Mary, come again? What's that? What do you mean I'm pregnant? What are you talking about? So they flew me and Todd and out to Northwest Arkansas, and they wanted to buy 7% or 30% of Killcliff. Mm-hmm. And so they explained the whole thing was Tyson Foods, Smith Brothers, Smithfield, some of the other juggernauts. We were like, why do you want to invest in Killcliff? They're like, well, we can only grow our protein business by 1% of 1% a year. We're maxed out. Mm-hmm. They can't sell any more chicken, steak, or pork. Yeah. And so what they were doing at the time is they were going around to small companies that existed that could also go into grocery stores. Mm. And they would acquire part of them and then send 5 emails. And then those food product companies would have nationwide authorization in every grocery store that Tyson Foods is in.
So use you as a point of entry.
No. They use themselves as a point of entry. Mm. It's so we now own 30. Let's hypothetically, if they had invested, they'd have owned 30% of Killcliff, And then they would have sent an email, and Killcliff would have gone into every single grocery store that Tyson Foods was in. So like, and they had just purchased like a mom and pop tortilla company out of Texas that did like $5 million in revenue.
Sure, but they had the entry into it.
And then the next year, they're at $50 million in revenue because they went into all these grocery stores. So we were like, that sounds awesome.
And the distribution. And
nationwide distribution. Yeah. So we were like, God, that sounds awesome. At the same time, we were being courted by a company out of Boston called Sherbrooke. And Sherbrooke was a VC firm, and we met with them. Those guys had like the big fancy resumes like Harvard and all that shit. And they had at the time, I'll never forget this fucking conversation. It was John Giannuzzi. It was the first East Coast Championship, CrossFit East Coast Championship up in Boston at CrossFit New England. And I met him, and he was like, yeah, we've invested in 13 consumer products, CPGs. Mm-hmm. And we entered between 3 and 8 million, which is what their annual revenue was. And then they exited 12 of them between 80 and 240 million. Ooh. We were like, holy shit. Wow. And I was like, you said 13. And then you just said 12. What happened to the 13th one? He said, well, that's the last one that we just did, and we lost our ass. And I was like, why? He's like, because we went super heavy in retail. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. So we ended up going with Sherbrooke. And the reason we went with Sherbrooke, the VC firm, was because Tyson Foods, their due diligence process would have closed our company down for 90 days. Their attorneys, their accountants or CPAs, turning over every single rock and every piece of paper. Like, we would have basically had to have dedicated all of our resources to going through the due diligence period with them. And then we were like, yeah, they're a monstrous company. Like, they could ruin us if they wanted to. These guys in Boston are sweet. They're nice guys. They're really cool. Let's go with them. Huge mistake. Yeah. So, it's interesting. Like, so the people that started Killcliff.
It was a huge mistake not to take VC money and like.
Well, so I have a saying: there's smart money, there's bad money, and then there's just money. Okay, so like, smart money is someone that brings money to the table and offers solutions, sits on a board, and wants to grow the company. Mm-hmm. Bad money, shit money, is a person that invests money and then sits on the board with their hand out.
Yeah.
Where's my money? When do I get my money back? Mm-hmm. And then you just have money, which is just someone that gives you money that doesn't give a fuck if they lose it or not. And that's not optimal. Yeah. Because they're not offering any solutions. They just, and you don't ever hear from them. Mm-hmm. So we went with, the people that started Killcliff, you have Todd Ehrlich. Todd was a SEAL, Bud's Class 198. Awesome dude. Todd, there's 3 people in my life that have known how to, I'll say, manage me. Todd Ehrlich, Evan Hafer, and then there's a gentleman named Richard Kirk, who I owe a tremendous amount of gratitude for Kirk. Todd's one of those dudes, you wake up in the morning, you want to go to work for him. You don't want to disappoint him. Not because you're going to get in trouble, just because like the guy believes in you and you just don't want to fuck up. Yeah. Evan Hafer's the same way. Like the thought of disappointing Evan Hafer like makes me like want to break down. Like and I never have and I never will, but it's just like it's a dude. Like you'll fight for him. Yeah. If he's like, hey man, there's 10 dudes in there and it's just me. It's like, hey man, let's go get them. Just the 2 of us. I don't give a shit. Fuck them. I don't care. And that's the type of guy that a company like Killcliff needs leading it, and that's the type of person that Black Rifle needs. So
just all-in leadership, where they are 100% behind you.
And there's nothing that they're not willing to do. They'll pick up a candy wrapper in the hallway, they'll take the trash out, and they've done everything, and they're willing to do everything.
I love that.
So you have Todd, Bud's Class 198. So he's a SEAL during peacetime. Yeah. Which is, that's tough. That's a tough nut to crack. Like you go to the SEAL reunions and like through the GWAT and everybody's talking about what it's like to be a SEAL and like you're just like, fuck, man.
Yeah, you feel like you missed out, or you're like, I can't imagine how that feels.
But so the way Todd made it for that, Todd's like, you know what? Fuck, I'm going to be the biggest donor to the Navy SEAL Foundation ever. And to this day, we've donated over $1 million cash to the SEAL Foundation. Wow. So it's just super cool. So you have Todd, who's the founder, and then the first employee was a gentleman by the name of GW, Gwinner Garrison, 6'5", 35 pounds right now, but 6-time world champ in BJJ, like competed at 220 at 6'5".
Damn.
Real gnarly dude. And I mess with GW. I'm like, yeah, the reason you're so good at BJJ is because you're fucking lazy. And he gets really pissed about that. But you know, like the guys that are like the really good at BJJ, they're not emotional. They're even keel. Could come across as lazy, but they're just smooth. And that's GW. And then Michael Heil. Michael played baseball at Georgia, and then was drafted by the Cubs or the Marlins and played in the minor leagues for 4 or 5 years. And then Leslie and me. And so you have this team of people that, like, none of us had the resume to, run a $50 million beverage company. But we started it, and we took it from 0 to 16 million in 3 years. Mm-hmm. And we created a brand that people wanted to be a part of, mm-hmm. which is what Evan did at Black Rifle. And so in textbook VC fashion, these dumbasses, these guys don't hold a candle to us. We're so much smarter. We're more sophisticated. We know more than them. We need to get control. And so ultimately what they were able to do, and I'd say this to Todd's face, they were able to play on Todd's weaknesses a little bit and kind of trick him into giving up control. So they did their initial investment, which I'd say would be an A round. We did a seed round. We raised from some guys in Atlanta. They gave us $1 million and $1 million line of credit. So we had $2 million. And then a few years later, that's when the Sherbrooke deal happened. And they put in, whatever they put in. And they're like, yeah, to make money, you got to spend it, spend. And so we were just blowing through marketing money to drive sales and grow the company. And then every time they're like, they put more money in, we need more equity. And so they got us to blow through like 2 rounds of funding. And Todd had 2 board seats or 3 board seats. Todd had control of the board. Mm-hmm. And that last round, they were able to convince him to give up that 1 seat that he had that maintained control.
Is it your runway just dumping your runway?
We were doing what the board was telling us to do. Mm-hmm. We were like, it's like, like you have a conversation with people, you think they're your partners.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I lived in Mill Creek, Washington at the time. I remember Todd called me shaken up. He's like, yeah, man, the board just fired me. I was like, excuse me? Fuck, what do those words mean? Oh, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. So, Todd still had his equity, but they fired him as the CEO and placed someone else as chairman of the board. And then they got what they wanted. They got control of the company. And I say, don't rub the bottle if you don't want the genie to come out. Because when the genie's out of the bottle, the genie doesn't go back in the bottle. And so they went through a couple like CEOs, just betas.
Yeah.
And then they hired this guy by the name of Joe Driscoll from Minnesota. Complete and total pussy. Like just a spineless, like he was woke before woke was a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm talking 2016 here. And I remember when I first met Evan, Jared Taylor called me and wanted Killcliff to sponsor Range 15. And I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. Gave him $50,000. And then I remember Evan and I connected at the premiere. And then Evan started kind of doing what Evan does, recruiting me to be on his team. He's really fucking good at that. Really, really good. So
them Green Berets.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Picking his ODA.
Yep.
I remember I wanted to, Killcliff, we started a cold brew coffee line. And we owned a thing called coldbrewcoffee.com. And Evan's like, man, I could do wonders with that. And this is the early days. I mean, early days of Black Rifle Coffee. Like, real early. So I had Evan come to Atlanta. I sat him in Joe Driscoll's office. And Evan was like, listen, if you give me control of coldbrewcoffee.com, I'll run half of it for Black Rifle and half of it for Killcliff. I'll do it all for you. And he laughed at Evan. And I just thought, and Evan was at this time through the eyes of society, he was just some guy that had a coffee company. Like Black Rifle wasn't shit at the time.
Yeah,
Sure.
And I was just like, that's kind of rude. One, being a Southerner, it's like, you don't fucking do that to people. And then like two, like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're a fucking retailer. Like Evan, this is a guy that literally decisions that had to be made in a fraction of a second resulted in life or death. Like, give him, and it wasn't like it was how do you not respect someone that's coming to you with a really, really sound offer that you don't know and have spent no time talking to. But like, he just blew him off and laughed at him. And like, it's interesting, like in hindsight, I told someone this the other night on the phone. I was like, there's a couple things you don't ever do with Evan Hafer. You don't ever fucking humiliate him or try to humiliate him. Okay. You don't like, if you have a disagreement with him, you do it in private.
Right.
In private.
In person.
In person and in private. Like, he's the fucking boss. You don't do that to the boss in a public setting around others. It's unprofessional. And that doesn't happen. But it's just funny, man, because like I know that Evan has never forgotten that. So anyway, so back to Joe Driscoll. So this idiot came from like Procter and Gamble, one of those big companies. And he brought this just eunuch of a marketing guy with him. And like my claim to fame is networking and then social media. Like, I really truly understand how that game's played because you simply take a common sense approach to it. Your customer is going to tell you exactly what they want. The customer doesn't lie. They're incapable of lying because they vote with their wallet. You know what I mean? And like, you can look, and I just remember telling Driscoll, I was like, hey man, like this Mark guy, like, I don't see it. He's like, man, listen, he's won awards in social media. I don't want to hear another word from you about this. And I was like, you're an idiot. And that's when I knew, and I was the last of the original guard. Todd was gone, GW was gone, Leslie was gone, and Michael Howell was gone. Jamie was gone. It was just me. I was the last person there. And I remember talking to Athena, and she said, Baker, I know what your problem is. And I said, what? She goes, you've stayed here 2 years too long. Your identity is this company. And I was like, you bitch. But you're right. Yeah. And that was 2016. And at that's when I knew, I was like, my days are numbered here. But I'm not a quitter. I've never quitted anything. And I didn't want to I was scared. I was like, if I leave, Killcliffe's fucked.
Because it was your baby. I mean, like.
Oh, you have no idea. So that was my second chance of life at like financial success. Yeah. Like real estate, I had a fucking real estate empire in Savannah. $15 million. Like, I had an empire. I owned 5 of the biggest buildings on Broughton Street in downtown Savannah at the age of like 29. Like, I was good. Timing also, I was there at the right time. And I was like, I can't, like, if this is another fucking failure. If I walk away, this is real estate 2.0 for me. Now, it's interesting. I self-corrected that really, really quickly. So let me go back real quick. So I was a really good high school football player. And I remember every Saturday morning I'd wake up and haul ass down to the fucking end of the driveway. Or Sunday morning. Friday morning or Sunday morning, depending on if we played it Friday night, Saturday night. And I'd get the newspaper. Was my picture on the cover of the newspaper? If not, was my picture on the cover of the sports page? Was I mentioned in the article, in the write-up? Did I intercept a pass, score a touchdown, run a punt back, whatever? And that's third-party validation. This is 1993, fall of 1993. This is pre-social media, pre-internet, pre-cell phones, back when life was simple and shit, And it was third-party validation. And so when we started Killcliff, and Tupu, that's the approach I took to social media, was like, if someone's going to post about Tupu or Killcliff and tag one of those companies, we're going to engage, and we're going to follow them, and we're going to create brand advocates. And like, that's third-party validation. And Coach Carter used to say, you're going to get name in the paper this week. Name in the paper, name in the paper. And that was my thought process. And so during my time at Killcliff, I got called all the time for people to like, hey man, can you help us out with social media? Can we talk? Can you answer some questions? I'm like, absolutely, whatever you want. But no, I'm not. I'm 100% focused on Killcliff. Yeah. And I remember when I had that conversation with Athena, I was like, the writing's on the wall. I'm not going to make it here with this guy. Because I didn't give a shit about him. I didn't care what he did. I didn't like any of his decisions. Even when he was if he made a good decision, I still thought it was bad. Because I was like, man, you guys have fucked my baby up.
Yeah,
like,
the relationship was toxic at that point, or you're just already had.
Yeah, and he thought I was just like some fucking hot-headed idiot. And it's just like, who's laughing now, dickhead? You know, like, so I remember I finally wrestled social media control back, and I made a post. It was a carousel, and it was 10 of our CrossFit athletes at the games, and it was a picture of their asses in CrossFit shorts, not a slutty short, not an e-thought, but like a posterior chain photo, like of the go muscle. Mm-hmm. And it's like, can you identify these butts? Match the butt to the athlete. And I ran it by all of our CrossFit sponsored athletes. They're like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. Like Brooke Ince was going crazy. She's like, oh my God.
So smart.
And a woke 22-year-old from Knoxville, Tennessee, emailed customer service and complained, said it was sexist. This is 2016. This is before woke, before anything. And Joe Driscoll lost his shit, like lost his mind. This was a Sunday morning, and I was just like, "Hey, man, you can kiss my ass, dude. Like you'll never, if that's you will never understand this brand. You'll never get it." Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm out of here. End of the month, I'm gone. I'll give you the rest of the month, but you can kiss my ass. And I remember that I was like, I'm gonna start Digital Mongoose, my consulting company. And so I called Evan on January the 3rd at like 10:04 in the morning, and I was like, hey, dude, I am done with Killcliff. Officially done. He knew I was leaving, but I was like, hey, it's officially done. I think New Year's Eve was like on a Friday, so I called him Monday, standing in the road, 10:04 on January the 3rd, 2017, and I was like, give me one piece of advice before I start my company. He goes, be more diplomatic in the way you deal with people. And I was like, fuck you. But okay. And that was a huge change for me. But I mentioned Rich Kirk, and my first big client was a firearms company by the name of Kimber. And so I started running all the Kimber social media. And then from there, it was just a fucking snowball. And it just blew up. Black Rifle was a client, did consulting for them for 3 or 4 years. And then I started working for Black Rifle full time. Handled all the hunting stuff because that's how I recreate. I've hunted on 4 continents and like I think 24 different states. And then a couple years ago, I was promoted to Director of Strategic Relations. That's awesome. And that's but I've been with Evan lockstep since the beginning.
Since day one.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
It's like, it's how do you define day one? Like, what does it say on like the paperwork, or like what does it say like when day one really was? You know what I mean? So like Killcliff, January 24th, 2011 really was day one, but day one didn't start till I arrived, which was May the 23rd. Which is interesting because that was the Southeast Regional in Jacksonville, Florida, and that's the first time I laid eyes, or that was the second time. That was the first time I met my wife. Because I remember I saw Melissa at an event in Woodstock, Georgia called the Garage Games. I was married at the time and she was married. And I was like, who in the fuck is that? My God, she's hot. And then fast forward to that May 27th, and it was the Southeast Regional in Jacksonville, Florida. And like I noticed she didn't have a ring on. And I was just like, fuck, she's so hot. Oh my God. And then we were friends. Like she bought Two Pood stuff and carried Killcliff, and she owns East Ormond Beach CrossFit. And we were friends for, God, a decade before we started dating. Because I remember, so I was in a long-term relationship in Washington State. She was in a long-term relationship with a guy. And I always would sneak peeks on her social because I just thought she was so hot. And I remember I was in, my girlfriend and I, a long-term relationship, we broke up, and like I was in San Antonio at Black Rifle. And I remember going through her Instagram. I was like, hey, where's that guy? She's like, where's that girl? And I was like, you're single? She's like, yeah. I was like, do you want to go out? She's like, yeah, sure, Baker. If you're ever in the Florida area, I would love to see you. And I was like, listen, I'm leaving to go hunting in Australia in like 8 days. When I come back, I'm coming to take you to dinner. And so I went to Australia, I was hunting in this place called New Arnhem Land, which is like 6 miles east of what's the northern city in Australia? Is it Durban? Is that the name of it? No. What is it? It's
Dude, I have no idea.
So it's north. I can't remember this, but like it was 6 hours to the east, dude, and like I was in the middle of nowhere in an Aboriginal village that made. You seen the movie Snatch?
Yeah.
You know the gypsy campsite?
Yeah.
5-star compared to the shit I was staying in, man.
Oh,
like it was gnarly, but it was phenomenal hunting. And I came back and went to bed at like 9:30. Woke up at 6:30. I was like, dude, I fucking beat jet lag. This is fucking awesome. Packed up my truck, drove 16 hours to Ormond Beach, Florida, and we've been together ever since. And then I got there, and that's when the jet lag caught my ass. Fucked me up. It was gnarly, but yeah, dude, it's been an awesome ride. It's been it's like, you know, I'm 47 now, and like I look back on stuff that I did in business, and like sometimes I cover my face, and I'm like, God damn, I can't believe I did that, or I behaved that way, or whatever. But the older you get, the wiser you get, you know, and like.
Well, you evolve.
Yeah, and it's like, what would you say to a younger version of yourself? And like everyone has all this advice. I wouldn't say a fucking thing.
Nope.
I'd be like, go get him, Tiger. Yeah. You're going to do great. Go get him. You know?
That's how you learn a lot, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know. You can learn a lot from other people and take direction and stuff, but sometimes like you got to some of the worst I think hires sometimes are the MBA credentials, all those things. They have no sense of a market. They have no common sense a lot of times. And a lot of times it's a lot of political stuff that are looking good. They've gotten rewards and awards in social media. And like, okay, I can go pay to get an award in social media.
What fucking award? Like who chose the winner? I wasn't in the contest, you know?
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. Like you look at certain people and like the kids that grow up, like here's a good example. So like you take a Mormon kid. All right. Grew up Mormon, Eagle Scout, went on a mission, went to an Ivy League school, played football, went to law school. There's a job for you at the CIA today. You don't have to interview because they have your biological passport. Uncorruptible, can't be swayed by money, follows the rules, and is committed to causes. You know, because like you look at like a Mormon kid, they go on a mission.
Yeah.
Knock, knock. I'd like to tell you about, you know, Mormon church. Fuck you. Get off my fucking yard. All right, partner, have a good day. On to the next house. If they do that they get told to fuck off every day for 2 years, and they stay committed to the cause. However, let's put them in some other situations and other scenarios where they're not in such an insulated environment with other like-minded people. Let's see how they handle their stuff in other things. And that's not a knock on them. That's just like, that is a committed group of people that's committed to a cause. Mm-hmm. Now let's put them in the romper room and see what really happens, you know? But like you mentioned, like the prestigious MBA programs and stuff. And those things, like those people can thrive as long as they are in the right system and process.
There you go.
Give me a Harvard MBA and let them roll with me for 7 days and do things the way that I do them. And I promise you, like, their brain will be scrambled. Now, they can't do what I do. And I damn sure I have no interest in being able to do what they do. Like the spreadsheets and the super organizational stuff, it's just not who I am. It's not the way my brain works. Like I do a lot of stuff on the fly. I do a lot of stuff by gut feeling.
Yeah.
You know, which works for me. But I know my limitations. Like if there's 10 skills, I think I'm as good as anybody in the world at 3. Average to, you know, slightly above average at 4. And then there's 3 that I'm a subhuman in. Non-functioning idiot. Mm-hmm. But I don't mess with those things. Yep. You know, I let other people do it. So, yeah, it's been fun. Black Rifle's been just a wild ride, you know, going public and like that's a thing.
How was that experience going public? That's a whole other.
There's nothing. I'm really, really glad that you asked that. Because now we get to ask Eddie a question. So you went through Buds. It was hard, right?
Yeah.
Was it harder when you got to your first team?
It continually gets harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you didn't just make it. You got to another level, and it just got harder.
Yeah, Buds is just a checking the box, like, okay, you can put up with some misery and put up with some pain.
Yeah.
But here's where the real work starts.
So a good buddy of mine, Zach Walters, graduated from Buds in 2015, 16, something like that. And I remember I was at a CrossFit event and I went to Dave Castro. And like I'm 3 for 3 when like I have people that I know that go through some type of soft training. I've said 3 guys will make it. They all made it. Everyone else, I'm like, oh, he's not going to make it. And they don't ever make it. But I went to David Castro. And I was like, hey, man, like my buddy just graduated Buds, dude. Like literally just this morning, he's like, yeah, it's about to get, now it's going to get real hard.
Yep.
You know, he's like, you're cold and wet in Buds, but he's like, you're really cold and really wet when you get to the teams. So that's one example. You think you make it, you get your trident, and then the work starts. It's steroids, another example. People that take steroids, like steroids don't make you bigger. They allow you to put in more work. You start a company, you go through a seed round, you go through your A round, you get funded. You didn't make shit, dude. Now the work starts. And it's like going public. So now you're a publicly traded company. Sky's the limit, dude. You got no fucking excuses. No excuses to fail now. So that's one of those things, man, like there's nothing like going through Buds. You can exercise, you can train, you can go in with the right mindset. You can go to like nowadays you do all these Buds prep courses and go in ready for it. You know? Going public, dude, there's nothing that you can do that can prepare you for it unless you've been through it before.
Yeah.
It's a totally different world. Like, it's insane. Not in a bad way, not in a good way, not in a neutral way. It's just there are parts of it that are absolutely abhorrent. There are parts of it that are absolutely amazing. And then, but at the end of the day, the requirement is still the same. You got to put in the work to make it work. And now, you don't just have to answer to Evan Hafer. You got to answer to shareholders. And there's millions of them, or hundreds of thousands. We have millions of shares of stock, tens of millions of shares of stock. There's hundreds of thousands to millions of stockholders. And there's a board. You know, the board, Evan's the CEO. Evan has to answer to the board. And we have to answer to Evan. You know, and you don't want to make Evan look bad. So you want to do your job. You want to do it really well. You know, but like you start to see, you have to mature and evolve when you're public. Like you can't do like the videos that Matt and the guys used to do back in the day. Like we can't do that type of stuff anymore.
Is that because of the board and they're like, hey, we don't like that, or
And you're under a lot more scrutiny being public.
There's so many agencies out there. You just went through it. There are people that want to fuck you up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And everything you do, especially a company like Black Rifle, like we have tons of eyeballs on us, you know, friends, foes, veteran organizations that want to tear us down, veterans that want to destroy us, other coffee companies that are running, you know, back end psyops against us. Like it's, you're constantly just, you get thick skin. You know?
Have to.
Yeah, you have to.
I remember, sorry to cut you off, but I remember, because obviously I met Evan, Jared, and Matt right when I got out. I did that podcast with them, obviously with the whole spiel that I went through, and like I had no idea who they really were. I saw Matt Best, I think, on some YouTube videos when on deployment, and you know he's putting out the funny stuff, and like you especially being in, you're like, oh, who is this dude? Like what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But then when I met him. I did a Fox News Veterans Day special thing, and I met him. I'm like, dude, he's awesome. Like
Matt is wonderful.
He is a genuine, like, good dude. Nothing like what I expected, and we ended up hitting it off. I think we went to a bar afterwards and had some beers, and then
the thing about Matt is the guy that you see doing the silly stuff on camera. That's not really the guy behind the camera. No,
I mean it is him. Like he has that creative side to him, and I think it's a good quality. Like I'm like, dude, he can entertain and put on, you know, whatever a show to like, but at the same time the guy is grounded and he's a smart dude, and he's just, to me, I was like, he's a genuinely good dude.
The thing that's interesting about Matt is like when I first linked up with those guys, like I thought Matt was like just the dude that the guys wanted to be like and the girls wanted to bang, and he just made funny videos. But I've watched Matt evolve like physically, intellectually, and emotionally. Like as far as like change of like the original, like, you know, Evan, Matt, and JT, like Matt has physically, his skill sets are much more diverse than the other guys, and I've watched those physically mature over time. Yeah. Singing, Matt used to, I was like, this guy's kind of a shitty singer. Matt's a phenomenal singer now. Is it guitar, music, instruments, and all that stuff vastly improved.
Oh, yeah.
Songwriting. Matt does a bunch of stuff with like a bunch of country music artists. It's not published, but Matt helps co-writes a bunch of country songs. Songwriting, his video chops, his creativity. And then in the past, what is it? We're almost to June. In the past 10 months, Matt's vernacular and like business chops have found like 3 more gears. Wow. Like it's I've never seen anything like it. JT has not changed. Emotionally, his emotional IQ is 0 still, and he's a hedonist. All he cares about is personal pleasure. But I would say that to his face. Evan, the thing that's interesting about Evan is like Evan has matured as like a CEO, and like the stuff that Evan's really matured at, like it's behind the board doors, like his thought and the way that he runs and approaches the business. And the thing that's fascinating about Evan is if you look at guys that start companies, it's very rare, but there's 4 people in this room. We could probably come up with like maybe 6 or 7 guys that started a company and still ran it when it crossed 400 million in revenue.
100%.
And we're not going to come up with one that's a marketing guy. Think about it. Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Michael Dell, Bill Gates, those aren't marketing dudes. Yeah. Those are ops and systems and process guys.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, Jobs was a marketer. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Steve Jobs was a marketing guy.
But that using Steve Jobs as an example, right? Like to your point, Steve Jobs is an oddity, right? Like he's a rare bird that had the visionary, strategic, the big thinker, but also marketing to. He was
a marketing guy, man. I mean, he understood the technology side of it, but like Steve Jobs was a marketing dude. 100%. But like it's very rare that you'll see a guy that stays on. I think our last earnings call, our projected revenue for 2023 was give or take 20 million, but I think it's like 443 million for the year.
Damn.
It's completely insane. Awesome. It's completely insane.
The stretch to get it from startup to 5 million, 10 million.
No, like, the number.
That's tough. Period.
The number is 1 million. So anybody listening that has an idea that wants to start a company or a business or whatever, if you can get $1 million in revenue, you have like a exponentially higher chance of success in making it than you do if you don't get to 1 million. So you just got to cross 1 million.
But the time you get there,
So you go 1 million, then it's 5, and then 5. This is my opinion. I think the next number is 20, and so like from 20 it's 50, 50 it's 100, 100 it's 250, 250 it's $500 million.
It's really interesting because what he's talking about, like the stages, right? Because at those different stages, different things are required of you, right? Like in stages of growth.
Oh God.
And I mean, it changes. It changes a lot. Like what you did to get there isn't what you're gonna need to do to get to the next.
You have to evolve.
Yeah, you
have to evolve. So, exactly. Like, we just bought Killcliff back 3.5 months ago from the VC firm. So the idiots at Sherbrooke. Let me backtrack. The idiots at Sherbrooke, and I don't give a fuck if you're listening. Fuck you. The idiots at Sherbrooke. John Januzzi, you can fucking eat shit too. And Nardoni, you kiss my ass as well. Every fucking one of them kiss my ass, man.
The diplomatic.
Who's laughing now? It's like we won. But they ran it into the ground, and they had to take on a bunch of other VC money to keep it going. And so it was a company out of Denver called like Sunrise or Sunset. Like Sunrise Sunset was the company, and we ended up buying it back from them like 3.5 months ago. And talking to Todd, like he called me, he's like, just close. I was like, dude, fuck yeah, it's on. It is fucking on. Because we're not going to make the mistakes we made the first time. And what I told him, I was like, he's been out of that game, the CPG consumer packaged goods game for, 7-8 years now. And I was like, this is the one thing I want to say, dude, is like the stuff that worked for us in the beginning doesn't exist anymore. It's a different animal. Now, my network is infinitely bigger, more bold and robust than it was back then. Like I was building a network then. Like I've got a monster network now. So like it's like, I said, I had that company, that CrossFit apparel company, Tupood, and I could transfer the customers over to Killcliff. And like now
you got Black Rifle.
Yeah. So Black Rifle is an interesting one. Like it's funny because like Evan was like, dude, like Todd just bought Killcliff back. I was like, yeah, we got it back. He's like, dude, I got to call him. And so he's like, yeah, let's get him out here. I want to get him out here. I want to talk to him. I want to sit down with him and stuff. So like the network's it's much bigger, but yeah, so the things that worked and it evolved from like 2015 to like 2018 was an evolutionary process. From 2018 to 2020 was an evolutionary process. From 20 to 21 was another one. 21 and a half to 22 is another one. And now we're living in a whole different universe.
Yeah.
With censorship and big tech and all that stuff. And I was always those guys, like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Like, I just don't have time to do that. But, like, I look at stuff now and it's just like, fuck, man. It's us against them. It really is.
It really is.
And you can take the approach of like, man, I'm being censored, man. They're fucking me. It's like you can do that, or you can be like, you know what? I'm going to beat these fuckers at their own game. I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. Whatever I have to do, I'm not going to let dudes that weigh 135 pounds in Seattle, Washington, and San Francisco beat me at anything. I don't give a fuck. I don't care what it is. I'm fucking bigger. I'm badder. I'm going to figure this out. Yeah. So you just have to constantly think on your feet, like, how can we adapt? How can we change? And it all really started when Trump got elected. Don Jr. is a personal friend of mine. I talked to him this morning and yesterday. Great guy, wonderful dude. He's the second best non-prior service long-range shooter civilian that I've ever met. Brian Morgan is the best. Hat Creek Training.
Him and Eric are both.
They load their own ammo and stuff. They're kind of psychopaths about it. It's like, hey man, like it's kind of like
it's like an obsession.
Oh yeah, he's legit. Yeah. And like you watch him shoot, it's like he's not doing it for the gram. Like he just kind of wanders off and like he'll just sit there and work a gun, caliber, whatever, at long range, 1,000 yards, whatever. He truly loves it. But what was I talking about before I mentioned Don Jr.?
Talking about it all.
Oh, his father got elected.
Yeah,
and. Big tech. What was I talking about? Big tech censorship.
Yeah, the censorship and adapting and.
Yeah, it's like it's a whole different universe now. And now that and Elon gets Twitter, so we've kind of got an ally there. But like it's a whole different. It's the Wild West now. You got to start over and figure everything out because the stuff like we've had social media now for 15 years. Like honestly, like think about this. When is the last time you came across a social media account or you were on Instagram that you were like, oh, this is worth my time? Not anymore. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're a content creator. Because, like, remember, like, 10 years ago, dude, there was, like, 4 or 5 people with YouTube channels, like in the gun game, and they had, like, really good content. Now there's a zillion. And it's like, how do you cipher through what's bullshit and what's legit,
Yeah,
like,
there's too many options out there.
It's too much bullshit.
Yeah.
It's too much bullshit. So, what was I talking about? I want to remember. I can't do it.
It's a different game.
Different game, adapting, and like I'll bring up. So I remember when I was with Jared at his place when the whole Rittenhouse thing happened. I was right there when he got the phone call, and it's so funny because everybody, and this is what's hilarious, and because of what I went through, I already knew the game. Like I got smeared for 2 years. I saw exactly how the media works. I was like, it's all bullshit. It's these people are liars, like, and they're all doing it like you said. Yeah. It's us versus them. That's how it is. But I think for a lot of people who haven't been through it, it's very hard to think like that. You're like, no, that can't be true. And it's like, no, dude, it is. There is a plan. There is an agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But at that time, not a lot of people, thought like that.
Right.
And so when that went down, Jared, he was like, oh, he's wearing the Black Rifle shirt, and Jared, none of them cared. They were like, yeah, okay, like we didn't give that to him, but whatever. But it was such like a big deal, and I remember telling Jared, I'm like, dude, who gives a shit, bro? Like, I was like, here you have 2 choices, and I was like, not that I'm the expert you should be listening to. I'm like, you can either make a big deal out of this and be like, oh no, make a statement, or just ignore it. And
I said the same thing.
Yeah. And
it was a Saturday morning. I was sitting in a deer stand, at my farm in Georgia. And I was talking at the time, Molly, who was our VP of marketing, and like they're freaking out. And I was like, it's a Saturday morning. It's confined to Twitter. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
The people that are mad are the left. Like,
and they want you to respond so
Yeah.
they can continue to spiral this out of control.
It's like
And that's probably
it's
not your market that much.
zero.
So
And I just said, hey, listen, like, you know, like it's a Saturday morning. It'll go away. This won't be a talking point on Monday.
Exactly.
Ignore it. It was Lynn Wood and Rick Schroeder from Silver Spoons. And it's funny that you mentioned that because Rick Schroeder, do you remember the TV show Silver Spoons?
oh yeah, I grew up on
Dude,
that.
so right now I have on orange Vans and an orange belt. You know why I always match my belt and my shoes? Because of Silver Spoons episode. Swear to God. I swear to God. He had on a lime green shirt one time. He had on a lime green belt and lime green shoes. And his dad's like, oh, you're matching your belt and your shoes. This was 30-something, 35 years
That
ago.
was early 80s.
But I remember seeing that, and I was just like, so I run all the Black Rifles Twitter. I run Evans, Matt's, JT's, and I was just like, it's great.
Yeah.
The kid, you know, and the thing that, and Molly, she's like, how are you so calm right now? And I was like, and dude, listen, dude, I can get, you want to get worked up and scream and throw shit. I'll be right there with you, dude. I have no problem fucking pulling the fire alarm. But I was just like, this is stupid. It's a Saturday morning. It's Twitter. Like the people that are outraged, like they don't even buy our coffee. Who gives a shit? And I have to be careful with how I say this so it doesn't come back and bite me. But Matt said it on the Patrick Bet David podcast. He's like, you know, we weren't PR experts at the time. We had never had a PR snafu. We didn't know anything. Like, Matt seems like I was carrying a gun for a living like 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we just basically corrected the record.
Yeah.
And it was like, we don't have a relationship with this minor, 17 years old. We don't engage in national tragedies or legal advocacy.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember
and
that was
we
the
believe in
response.
law and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like we didn't disavow him or shit on him or say that little motherfucker went looking for trouble and he found it.
And then you have the other crowd. They're like, oh.
No, but
they're
it was,
not- yeah.
but it was the far right.
Yeah.
That like we bent the knee to the left, to the woke mob. And that's basically, and dude, oh my God, we caught so much shit. Like there were times I would lay in bed at night fantasizing about strangling people 3 at a time. Like, I'm serious, dude. Like I would go to bed because like I read all the comments.
That's
Yeah, exactly. See, you know, and like it was a complete just disaster.
honestly though, like that type of stuff makes you grow. It's like that going through those little turmoils, especially all that BS, as shitty as it is, it, like you said before, it's like you can either sit there and stew on it, or you can adapt, grow some thick skin, and continue on with your mission. Right?
No trial lasts forever.
Yeah,
You know?
it's the same when New York Times did the article, right? And I remember Evan called me, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I just want to let you know, man. Like, I didn't say anything about you when they came out because they put my name in the article. They tried to say like, oh, they're supporting this war criminal or whatever. And New York Times is New York Times. They're going to do what they're
The
going to
thing
do.
that sucks, dude, is I spent time with the guy that wrote that article at our Veteran Adaptive Athlete shoot. It's like, hey, if you're going to do this story, you're going to come and hang out with us and meet us. And he went to Salt Lake City, I think, twice. And then so every year we do this thing called the Veteran Adaptive Athlete shoot, where at our ranch in Leon Springs, Texas, we bring anywhere from, you know, I think the last year we had 60 disabled amputees.
Oh, wow.
Tricked them out with bows and all this stuff, and like they went and shot like an archery course at our range, and everybody was out there, and there's like 300 people there, and the guy was there, and like I can tell you his interest because he and I talked about sports. He's a big UNC basketball buddy, a big UNC basketball fan, and like I'm a Georgia football guy, and we talked sports and had a great conversation. He's like, "Man, this is really great what you guys do," and like everything was awesome, and then he took this article. And he took sound bites.
Yep.
And he wove them together. And it's just like, how dare you?
Welcome to the game.
Yeah, but what's the end state for him? Like, what does he accomplish?
It's because, and this is what I told Evan. And again, I'm not like an expert, but I've been through the ringer with these people, and I was like, you are a threat to them. You are what you stand for Like, and what you stand for is helping veterans, you love this country, you serve this country. You're the enemy to them, dude. I'm like, and there's no other way around it. I'm not making this up. And I'm like, so yeah, they might have came out. They might have been like, oh yeah, blah, 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 friendly. I'm like, in the end, they have a mission, and that is to take you down. And I'm like, and that's the bottom line. And I realized people were like, well, then why did you invite the wolf into the hen house?
Because he was going to write the article anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, and people were saying, I'm like, here's the thing, dude. If people say that to you, it's like, I'm not scared. I'm not scared to let the wolf in and be like, hey, man, this is what we're about. And if they're going to write what they're going to write, then fuck them. Like,
yeah.
But here, at the end of the day, at least you can sit there and be like, I'm not scared of what I'm about. I'm not scared to show you what I'm about. And at the end of the day, if you want to write whatever you want to do, at least I can sit here and stand on my 2 feet and be like, I have a spine, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I stand for. And I did the same thing and I explained to them, like, Apple, they came and they're like, hey, we want to do this documentary on my whole trial. My wife and I both knew. We were like, this is going to be a risk. But at the same time, we were like, hey, we'll do it. We're going to give you all of the information. We gave them everything. And we told them straight up before they made it, we're like, we realize where you guys stand, but we just ask you do your due diligence because all the facts and truth is in here. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, at least we can say, here, we stood up and we're like, we're not scared. I'm not scared to talk to the liberal media. I'm not scared to I'll talk to anybody because all we're doing is telling the truth.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mentioned, I mentioned the real estate stuff and like losing everything I had. And I remember like I was being, I got deposed a few times. I think we chatted about that earlier. And like that's one of the highlights of my life is going in a deposition and like having the truth on your side.
Yeah.
And just owning people. But I remember the people that sued all of us, their attorney, whom I knew, he was like, hey, my Uncle Jerry, who's an attorney, he called me. He's like, hey, Stephen Ross wants to talk to you. And so my Uncle Jerry's he's an icon in real estate law in Georgia. Like he's a juggernaut, tons of respect, just an amazing guy. And he's like, I want you to go talk to him. I said, all right, no problem. And I said, what do I do? He goes, Baker, just remember this. There's no story on this in the world you can make up that's better than the truth. And I was like, all right, that's what they're going to get. And the thing that just drives me crazy is just like, I want in those situations, like with the New York Times or what, let's just be honest with each other. Like,
that'd be nice.
Without you can like get your little hot takes, interviewing me or interviewing Evan or whatever. You can get your sound bites just because of the way the way people like us talk. It flows, but like just do it honestly. Mm-hmm. I'll give you your sound bites and I'll give you your hot takes and shit, man. But just don't like parse my words and like weave them, And the thing that troubled me the most was we caught the most heat from conservatives.
Yeah, because I remember I was getting hit up because I support Black. I was like, I like Evan, I like Jared. I support them. They're my friends. They accepted me when I got out. They helped me. We hung out and it was a good time. So people were hitting me up like, oh, same thing. All these conservatives, and first off, I just ignored it. I'm like, I don't even care. But then every once in a while, somebody might pop out with something, and I'm like, dude, you have no idea who Evan, Matt, or Jared are. Right. Like, and that's the bottom line.
Anyone that says that Evan Hafer is anti-2A is a flat earther and can never be taken seriously again. I challenge you to find me another CEO on this planet that has given 151 Noveski ARs to friends and family and employees. Find me one. He did that years ago.
Yeah.
But like it's like you guys want to there are certain factions within that segment that would like just as soon destroy a veteran-owned company that has 900 employees and employs 60% veterans and is the only conservative publicly traded company that I can think of. Like, we are the ones that went to New York City and went public and flew the flag for all of you guys. And like, there are people and elements within that would like to see that thing crumble.
Oh yeah.
But why? Is it just because, like, I don't know. The whole thing was just it was troubling. We came out the other side of it, like, and it's just like, God, it was so frustrating, man. But that's in the past. It's in the rear view,
and you grow from it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, boom. And that just add another layer onto my skin, dude.
It's like PR stuff. Just it's like I don't have kids, but like I hear stories like when you're trying to teach your child to sleep in its crib in its room by itself, and you close the door, and it cries and screams, and you got to let it get it out of its system, because the moment you open that door and say there, you reset that clock.
Yep.
So just keep the bedroom door shut. Let them cry. Let them get it out of the system.
Or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we just wrote a check to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which does scholarships and tutoring for veterans, SOF veterans, or the kids of fallen SOF veterans. I think the SOF community in the military makes up 1 to 3% of the force.
It's like less than 1%.
Yeah, but it accounts for 75% of the casualties.
Yeah.
And so we stroked them a check for $500,000, which is awesome, because like that organization, General Clayton Hutmacher, runs it. He's a retired 2-star. He was at the 160, which is just such a super cool organization. Like how competitive every pilot in the world thinks they're the greatest pilot in the world.
Oh yeah,
like all of them. And so then you take like the most highly qualified, highly vetted pilots, and you put them in one room. And think about the ego shit right there.
Not enough ego in there to move around.
It's crazy, but they do all kinds of amazing stuff. Like they provide scholarships. They provide unlimited tutoring. I think, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure it's like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year for daycare, starting at pre-K, and then it's like unlimited tutoring through elementary, middle school, and high school.
That's awesome.
They'll pay for all that, and then they pay for college and postgraduate stuff. It's amazing organization. We did a ton of stuff with them, and then we do a bunch of stuff with the boot campaign and a bunch of other veteran organizations, and that's one of the things being the director of strategic relations, I'm on the marketing side of the house. And that is one thing that we absolutely suck at, is telling people about what we do for veterans.
Because you're too busy doing things for veterans.
We don't want to come across as braggarts. And it's like, no, dude, you're looking at it the wrong way. Like, just because we wrote a check to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation for $500,000 doesn't mean that someone can't write a check to them for $2.
Yeah.
You lead by example.
Exactly.
We got an extra $500,000 here. Do what you do with it, and hopefully that inspires other people to make contributions to other veteran organizations.
Well, I think it inspires other people, and then it's also the culture, right? It spreads. Like tomorrow, I'm going to the Black Rifle in Niceville here, and we're doing a memorial workout for Lou.
Oh, I was there earlier. I saw that. Yeah. Was that the 7th Group guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm very good. He was actually on this podcast, Jared Johnson, who owns it.
He was an NFL dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
Is he a big guy?
Yeah.
Was he like a lineman or something?
A little bit bigger than me.
Yeah, he's a beast. I think so. I got him
6'5"-ish. Okay, so he's like a lineman or defensive guy.
Yeah, played for Rams.
He played for
Vikings.
the Ravens and the Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah, just a phenomenal human being. He ended up opening that Black Rifle, I believe,
3-4 years ago.
Yeah,
No, two years ago. Yeah.
Because I think I helped make the connection between them and Evan and them. But yeah, he carries on that I won't say tradition, but culture of Black Rifle. He's like, dude, we're about supporting the veteran community. I mean, and that's because of what Evan and Matt and Jared have started, and that trickles down to each of the franchises. And you can't. There's no way you can poke holes in that. It's dude, they're doing good things. And then, but the problem is, and like you said earlier in the podcast, once you're on top, there's only one place people want to see you go. A lot of people, and that's down. And they'll do whatever.
The most vocal ones.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy about that is they're all anonymous, and that drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. And then we had this one guy from Alabama. Talking shit. And I was like, listen, man, it's a free country. You can say whatever you want. One, what you're saying is wrong. And that's annoying because you don't have any facts and you didn't read the article and you didn't take an extra 30 seconds to read further down. You just read the title of some asshole's tweet. And I was like, the thing that really upsets me is that you would never fucking say that if you were in a room with me.
Exactly.
Well, he's like, yes, I would. And I was like, dude, I'm looking at you right now. I'm looking at your profile. I'm looking at your little weak, chubby hand. You would never do that. He's like, you know what? You're probably right. And I was like, thank you for fucking being honest. And I was like, by the way, he's an Alabama guy and I'm a Georgia guy. And I was like, that was a good game. We won the Natty last year, but and we still now we interact, you know.
But it's like you could respect that he was like, okay, he was honest for a second.
Yeah, and like I don't think I'm not the baddest dude on the planet, not even close, and like I'm not like some barroom brawler or whatever. But it's just like, just have some like respect for like truth, and then like the hierarchy of man, like. Surely, I'll give you an example. Donald Trump Jr. Field Ethos did he launched an outdoor media brand called Field Ethos.
Yeah,
awesome.
I've been on their podcast. Yeah,
I have to. Awesome. And he did a tweet about it, and there's like 4,000 comments. And dude, it's insane. It's crazy. It's like I hope you die.
Yeah.
Hope you. And so it's called chasing the dragon. All right. So like, and what chasing the dragon means is like you have like a drug addict, for example, that wakes up in the morning or whenever they wake up and whatever their drug is, they do it first thing. That's the highest they're going to be all day. And the rest of the day they chase that high. And so when Trump got elected, basically started with that. Like you'd have people be like, man, you're stupid. Trump would do a tweet or whatever and people would be like, man, you're dumb. Your hair's bad. And then that grew into, you're an asshole. And then from there it went, fuck you. And then from there it's like, you sorry ass motherfucker, I hope you die. It's like, God damn, dude, like you're getting aggressive. And then from there it's like, I hope your entire family catches on fire and dies painfully, you son of a bitch. And it's like they're just chasing like crazy. They're just, it's like, because that's not good enough anymore. Just shut up. That doesn't work anymore. It's like, these people, it's some weirdo psychosis. And like if you look at one of Don Jr.'s tweets and you just spend 10 seconds in the comment section, it is the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's that's who we sort of, when I was going through all of our stuff, and believe me, the amount of hate and comments that we got, I mean, especially when I got out, it was abhorrent. Like,
but what I don't understand about that is like, I'm sure that the majority of those people have never been in the military.
No.
Which doesn't disqualify them from having an opinion.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet you they know very, very little about the military. And I bet you they know literally nothing
about my case.
About the soft community. And they know absolutely zero about war.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they were able to be manipulated into hating you and hoping horrible things would happen to you for something that their entire life they've had no exposure to. Not even like the most basic of like physically touching a military uniform. You know, like I don't understand how they land on that hatred.
I think it's more of people want to be part of a group.
Mm-hmm.
And
tribalism.
So, and they're like, oh, this guy's getting hated on. I'm going to join in, even though I have no context of what's going on.
Right.
And that's where like I drank through a fire hose. My wife and my whole family drank through a fire hose going through that because. I mean, not only was I getting death threats and nasty tweets, my kids were.
Yeah.
I mean, so we were, and at the beginning, I was losing my mind, dude. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I want to kill these people.
Yeah, yeah. Where are they? Where are they?
Like, show me where you are. But you learn to like grow from that, and you're like, dude, these people don't even know me. They're nothing. Like, their lives are so pathetic. I don't know where you find the time to even like go on other people's things and comment nasty shit.
Yeah.
And like, that's your issue, dude. And that's where I landed on. And plus, we emulated ourselves off the Trump family when we were going through that because, we were like, dude, the Trumps go through this on a daily basis.
That's all they deal with.
And they keep pushing forward. They do not let it stop them. They don't even like acknowledge 97% of it. And I'm like, that is the route to go because as soon as you give those people any credence to what they're saying, they've got you. And they're like, now I've got you. Now we'll just continue this.
Right. It's interesting. Trump's been, if you read the book, The Art of the Deal, like Donald Trump has been fighting with politicians in the media for 60 years. Like he and Ed Koch, the mayor of New York, like they went at it for decades. And he's always weaponized and used it to his advantage, the media, whether it be print, magazines or TV or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like that's his playbook.
Yeah.
Like that's just, and if you look at him, like he looks like he did when he got out of office versus some of these other guys like George Bush or Obama or Biden. I mean, my God, they're like walking court. They've aged 2 decades.
Yeah, it looks like their souls have been completely.
He
sucked
looks
out.
exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's like no
you
big
just
deal,
saw him at the town hall thing he did. Was it last week or week before? I mean, it's like, dude, the guy doesn't miss a beat. He's still rocking and rolling.
Dude, he annihilated those people.
Yeah. And I was like,
it's funny watching the reaction to that. Like the media is having meltdowns, like how CNN has betrayed us. It's like you let the front runner of the GOP, the former president, have a town hall on your network, and he answered questions, and people got to ask questions. Like, and you're upset about what? Are you upset about today?
yeah,
Try this the next time. We all have friends that are constantly pissed off about something.
yeah.
Do this exercise, and for everybody listening, I want you to do this. Go up to your friend that's always mad about something and ask them what they were mad about 3 days ago. They won't have a fucking clue. Like, dude, you were mad as fuck on Wednesday. Like, what were you mad about? I forgot. Like, shit, man, I don't know. Like, really? You don't know? Like, you were, like, unhinged 2 days ago. You don't remember what you were mad about, you know? So it's an interesting time in business, in social media, and media, and the way that we digest content. And, like, it's just... I don't know, dude. I just think there's something sinister at play out there, and I don't know what it is.
I could not agree more. I mean, I think we had a guy, we were talking about this the other day on a podcast where I use social media, but at the end of the day, I have a gut feeling, like something in me that's like, all of this is wrong. Like there's something sinister behind all of this, and I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but my own gut feeling, I'm like, it's just not good for society.
No, God, no.
At all.
No, God, no. It's horrible. So, like, when we were growing up, we had the morning news, the evening news, the nightly news, and then we went to bed. Newspapers. Now, and the thing is that the editorial room, the TV and stuff, didn't have to be profitable because there wasn't a way for it to be profitable. They made their money selling ads in magazines and newspapers, and they made their money selling magazines and newspapers. So the editorial room had to be honest. I mean, think about some guys that have gotten in trouble like 20, 30 years ago for just saying something that was like, could have possibly been interpreted incorrectly. They'd get taken off the air. You had to tell the truth at all times, and you couldn't show bias. Well, now with the invention of the internet, newspapers have gone away. Magazines have pretty much gone away. No one does print ads or any of that stuff. So, like, I mean, all these major newspaper publications have gone out of business because of the internet. Now, the editorial room has to be profitable.
Yep.
And the only way to make money is through clicks.
Yep.
I'll give you $100 if you can go on CNN or Fox News for every positive headline you can find. Try it. You can't find a single one. There's nothing. They don't report anything that's good. And that's the stuff that I don't understand is like, if you're a part of the person creating all the turmoil, like you can't be happy with this outcome. Like the animosity and the hate and the constant shit. Like that's the thing that kind of keeps me up. And like you were saying, like it's bad. It's like with the invention of this artificial intelligence stuff.
Here we go.
Dude.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm like, we're just going to keep progressing with this technology, and I don't think it's going to lead anywhere good.
No. God, no. It's going to be completely insane.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of crazy stuff going, like the leaking of the Supreme Court abortion ruling. Like a clerk leaked that to the media. A Supreme Court ruling before it was like,
yeah.
And what's going on, man? Like whether you're pro or against, whatever, that's bad. You know, and it's one thing after the other. Like there's just like all this psycho shit. Like San Francisco, California is a complete disaster.
Oh yeah.
You know, look at major cities like and then the border thing. Like, dude, I talked to you need to if you do remote. Do you guys ever do remote podcasts?
We haven't yet.
So Sean Crandall, who owns Crandall Fitness, he's a Border Patrol agent. I met him at Andy Stump's store opening in Montana a few months ago, and like. Crazy town, the border. It is insane what's going on down there right now.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And you can't tell me that having an open border and having 5 million illegal immigrants crossing the border so far this year is good for business. It's not.
Those are votes.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part is like. But what's funny is that they're shipping them to other cities. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, is sending them off to other places. And like,
well, I saw Chicago came out and they were, they're upset that they're getting a lot of the immigrants, shipped there. And there was the African-American community came out and they're like,
raising hell.
Yeah. And
so you're a sanctuary city, man. Fuck off.
Exactly. And at the same time, all I'm thinking of is, well, who did you vote for?
Yeah.
That's just, you voted for this.
Yeah. You rub the bottle, the genie pops out, So yeah, there's like something has to give. I think like the pendulum needs to kind of swing back to normalcy, and it's like I look at like politicians, it's like, fuck, man, there's got to be a voice of reason somewhere. Someone's got to step up. Someone has to step up and be like, listen, guys, like this is insane. Like we're destroying our country. Like we have to get our country back. And just I don't know what the solution is, but we need to find one. I'm gonna grab this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, and I go up to DC every once in a while for our foundation, and talk to different congressmen. But there are good people up there. There are people that think the way we do, and they're like, we need to save this country. But they are battling such an uphill battle with the rest of the people in there that are involved in degrading this country.
Yeah, I mean, they say, it has bipartisan support. So 2 members from the other party voted in line with the other party, and you're calling that it's not bipartisan support. That's 2 outliers.
Exactly.
But yeah, and like there's a lot, like there's a mental health. I think there's a crazy mental health issue in this country.
Big time. Like
there's just like I can't recite the statistics because I don't pay that much attention, but like some of the stuff like with young boys and young men and like, nuclear family households and like all this crazy stuff. Healthcare is another thing. Mental health care is another thing. Like the school system, like you're seeing like ideology get, and on both sides, right and left, you're seeing different types of ideologies get intertwined in like education and like, I don't know, man, like there's just something sinister going on. Someone's behind it. I don't know who it is. I don't know what it is, but like I see a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
but then if you stay off social media and you go out and you interact with people in public,
yeah,
it's not. You don't see it.
No,
it's just what we're being fed, and like I feel like I'm hopeful that like I'm just getting fed a bunch of bullshit because I don't see the bullshit. I just see it on social. I don't see it out in society where I live, but I also live in Ormond Beach, Florida.
It's like what you talked about before, that chasing the dragon, right?
Yeah.
It goes both ways. So you have the people on there who are, they have to comment and like say all this hateful shit, and it's like an addiction. It's the same premise on the other side, to where people are reading these articles or constantly on Instagram looking at the bullshit that's happening in this country, which is minimal if you take a 3,000-foot view and be like, actually, this is just a small group. But people are addicted to getting upset, and they're like, no, I can't stop looking at this and getting upset.
Yeah.
And it drives people crazy because it spikes that dopamine in them. It's the same premise of guys who go to combat all the time, right? It becomes addicted. It's like they're addicted to the dopamine of going to combat. Like, and I was one of them, right? It's the same premise for people who cannot stay off social media. They're constantly on there looking at all the crazy stuff
or
that
TikTok
goes on,
or whatever,
or whatever else is, they're putting crazy stuff out there. I mean, people in the end, and that it's a mental health crisis.
Yeah,
it's literally they are driving people to be.
My brother, he told me a story. He went from Mosul to Liberia, and there was like. He told me a story. He's like, people when they're upset and excited, they're much easier to control. Mm-hmm. And he said they were doing something. He's a Force Recon Marine. They were doing something, guarding someone or something like that. I don't know the terminology, but like, he's like, there was this big like riot broke out, and like he's like, we walked into like this. I guess it was like a grocery store where these people were going completely insane. And he's like, there's something electric about that. And like, you just like your eyes open, your nose opens up, like you're breathing deeper. And like, you want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Cause like that, it's like you're talking about in comment, like he's like, these people are going nuts. There's this like palpable energy flowing through them. And it can get a hold of you. And you're just like, I want to go fucking smash something,
Yeah, and that's the saying we have, calm breeds calm. It's like,
yeah,
you can easily send. So I'll put it into terms of we do CQC, right? Practice it. You have guys that will bolt into a room. They're like all amped up, and they're like fling the door open, run in there. Well, that energy he has going in that room is sending that down the chain of the guys behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just amped everybody up for no reason because that room might be empty, and then that energy train will keep going each room you get into, and before long, that's how mistakes are made. But if you remain calm and go in there, everyone else will be calm as well, and that you apply that to what's going on.
That's the thing that just blows my mind. Is like, we're going into this house. We think there's bad guys with guns. What should I do? Stay calm. Like, my brain, I've never experienced that. My brain, you know what I mean? It's like,
you train yourself to that, obviously. I mean, I'm not going to say, the first time you do CQC or go to combat, you're amped up. You're like,
right.
Dude, I've never been here before, and that comes with experience. But you can pass that experience on to the younger guys and be like, listen, man, just take a breath. Like, we're going in regardless. So you might as well try and go in as calm as possible so you can make rational decisions instead of being amped up, getting in there, and then everybody knows when you're amped up and excited and stressed out, that's where bad decisions get made.
Right.
So that's why we're like, stay calm as much as you can.
And Baker are outside before you can get in the door. We're like blasting through,
shooting out windows and shit, shooting guns straight up in the sky. Throw grenades. Where? I don't give a shit. Just throw something. Yeah. No, that's the like I said, there's something sinister out there, and I don't know what it is. Yeah. But you don't see that. Like, if you go out and you talk to people and you interact with people and you live your life and you stay off your phone, life's pretty good.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and I was explaining this to Dave. I think I went to Tallahassee 3 weeks ago, and I gave a talk on psychedelics, and they should do studies here in Florida, trying to get that passed for veterans and people, right? And they had they were voting on bills that day, and one of them was, can men use women's bathrooms and women use men's bathrooms, the whole transgender thing, which we listened about 10 minutes, and my wife and I are like, we're out of here. And we walk out, and there was at least 30 people protesting that were all the transgender group. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time I've ever seen it in person, and just like, on social media, you might see the videos.
Oh, it's everywhere.
And I see
it's
it.
Like, well, where is it?
And it's funny, yeah, right? I see them on social media. I'm like, oh, dude, they're just trying to amp people up. But I will say this. I saw it in person, and I'm like, this is demonic. I've never seen anything like that. I mean,
well, there's a medical term for it called gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
So, and what's interesting about that space is, I think studies say that suicide rate in that community is 40%. And then there's people that will say it's because of bullying, but that's not true, because the most bullied people historically are African Americans and Jews, and they actually have the lowest suicide rates known to man. The whole transgender thing, like, I don't spend time on that. I don't read any of this. Yeah. It's like, like, hey man, if that's your thing and you're born that way, and just leave the fucking kids alone. That's.
And I think, well, that's the train of thought that I took. I'm like, hey man, do your thing, whatever it's America, free country. Just don't stay off my lawn. Yeah, for sure. But now I think these days, I mean, you can see it in the school. It's being pushed in a way where, like, hey, you have to accept this, to where now I am taking a stance on, like, now I'm like, no, this is wrong.
Do you know what % of the population identifies as trans?
No.
Take a guess.
Small.
That's not a number. Give me a number.
0.1, 0.2.
You're saying 0.1, 0.2. What do you got?
0.01.
0.004. 1.3 million.
Yeah.
In a country with 340 million people. It's a statistical anomaly. And what I think it is, and I'm glad we got on this, is here's what I think is going on. I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier. I've come to the conclusion, after saying I don't know what's going on, I've figured it out. I think what's going on is that they are amplifying such statistical anomalies, such small things to the front to distract us from what's really going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it's like the sleight of hand, how the salami, like the transgender stuff and the males playing women's sports and things like that. It's all pushed to the forefront. And I think it's honestly to keep people distracted. Because, like, if I was a high school kid, and kids, generally want to rebel. It's just kind of part of their DNA, and they all rebel in different ways. But, like, why are you not rebelling against the Epstein client list? Those were your peers. Those were other kids. Sex trafficking amongst your peers, kids. Like, why are you guys not standing up and, like, walking out for that? Why are you walking out for things that, like, that has nothing to do with you? It's crazy. I think it's sleight of hand. I think they're just trying to distract us. You mentioned psychedelics. That's another thing I have a big opinion on.
Yeah.
So I think one of the and like veteran issues, I think one of the, for lack of a better phrase, one of the biggest mistakes the veteran community makes is that the veteran community only relies on other veterans for the most part. They don't lean on their civilian counterparts. And so you were a SEAL, or you were in the military for what, 20 years?
A little over 20.
Yeah, see, I've been a civilian for 47. You know what I mean? And, like, I think that civilians are willing to help veterans in a way above and beyond. I think your average civilian is willing, that never served, is willing to go the extra mile for veterans because they feel an obligation.
Yes.
They should. And I think the veteran community could lean on the civilian community a little bit more. I'd like to see that. But back to psychedelics. I think a lot of guys overdo psychedelics.
So I'm with you on that.
And here's why. So I ate mushrooms for the first time when I was 15 years old. I grew up in Georgia. My family owns farms. I've picked and dehydrated 10,000 pounds of those things in my lifetime. I mean, a lot. And the interesting part is that we always, 15 years old, you're a sophomore in high school, you've got upperclassmen telling you the do's and don'ts. Don't eat mushrooms 2 days in a row. Don't eat mushrooms and acid. Don't do this and this. You don't combine these things. Like, they gave us there's like a Cliff Notes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's like kind of absurd, but like you listen to them. You don't know what's going on. And I think a lot of dudes, spent their entire, career or whatever, or, in the military or a large part of their adult life in that, and they've got some stuff they're dealing with, and they take psychedelics for the first time, and it makes them feel better. And they just want to constantly feel that way. And what happens is I think a lot of them end up frying their molecule. They overdo it.
I completely agree. And that is, like, I have pretty much a similar stance. I do think there is benefits to it, for sure. Like, I would never, like, demonize it, because I do think it does have benefits. And in my mind, I'm like, if it will get guys off pharmaceuticals and, alcohol or whatever, I'm like, great. But at the same time, it's like the Wild West right now. And there's a lot of veterans out there that are, like, promoting it. And, oh, yeah, I do psilocybin. I did this and this every other day.
Microdose, and cold plunge, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I also cold plunge, but I'm not, like, out there.
I did it 4:30 this morning. Yeah, I got on a plane.
And it benefits me.
I love
that's it. That's the thing. I like it, but I think with psychedelics, which is what I presented to them in Tallahassee, I'm like, this needs to be, like, have more of a study to it, and we need to do it properly, because right now there's people out there promoting it, and a lot of veterans are out there, oh, yeah, I do it every other day and this and that. I'm like, well, then you just switched one drug for the other. Yeah. And that's not the purpose. Right. I'm like, the purpose, like, do it, once. And, like, so I did Ibogaine, like, 3.
That's pretty tough, isn't it?
That's the strongest one you can do.
But physically hard, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's not a good time.
Yeah, Jericho and Logan, I think Logan said it's physically the hardest thing he's ever done in his life.
Yeah, it's so intense.
He said, like, moving your eyes hurts. Like, it's brutal.
Everybody has a different reaction to it, or different experience. I had a great experience. Like, I was fine the next day. But I also, like you, in high school, I did a lot of psychedelics.
Right.
I'm not saying you did a lot, but I did a lot.
I did a ton.
So, okay, same here.
a metric shit ton.
I joined the Navy.
All of them.
I joined the Navy on mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the recruiter on mushrooms and joined. And so I already knew, like, going into it, I'm like, I know what this is. This is a drug, and it's going, we'll see what it does. I'd never done something that strong. Mm. And it did benefit me. It showed me things that I needed to see, and I was like, okay, I got what I needed out of that, but that's not the end-all, be-all. Like, guess what? Reality is still there. You still need to figure out a way to deal with things, and I think for some guys, they're like you said, I want to keep feeling this way because the drug does wear off. And I'm like, well, you can't go through your whole life constantly depending on psychedelics
or anything,
because eventually reality is going to smack you in the face. And if you do not find the right tools to deal with the hardships of life, because everybody goes through them, not just veterans, like there are hardships of life for everybody, and you need to figure out how to deal with those on your own. And I'm a person of faith. I turn to God every morning. I talk to him, like, help me get through this day. I know there's struggles are going to come, and that's what grounds me. But I think that people who are on this psychedelic path every day, it's not a good thing. Oh, yeah. And I think the way that they're promoting it is not good. I think it needs to be studied more, and then the effects of it, like the long-term effects, we need to find out what those are.
Well, there's no toxicity level to psilocybin.
Yeah.
You could eat 100 pounds and it's just going to be like having a really bad hangover. I've been close to the edge on those things a few times. Like, where it's just like, hey man, if I could come down 10%, I'd be good.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to wait and let it just kind of wear off a little bit, and then I'm good to go. But I have done a little too much right now. I think the thing with like dosage and all that stuff, and like I think it's nerding out on that stuff is cool, and I think that I fully support people doing that. Yeah. But it's like weed. Like, you can't smoke weed every day. Like, it might be
a productive human being.
Well, it's not so much. I don't know that it's a productive thing. Like, it's just that stuff. Like, prolonged usage of anything has a detrimental effect. Mm-hmm. And like, I know people like, so Melissa, my wife, Melissa smoked weed every day for probably 10 years and then quit, just stopped smoking weed, cold turkey. We had to put her mother in a memory care facility. Her mother had early onset Alzheimer's dementia. Yeah. Yep. Which is a gnarly thing. And so like Melissa, it scared the shit out of her. And she went and got the test to see if she has like a 9% chance of coming down with it, which is like one of the lowest scores you can get. And she was doing a ton of research, and it's like, weed and alcohol, prolonged use of those things, like, it doesn't help prevent that. So she just quit totally cold turkey. And like, in hindsight, like, I'm not saying that she was neurotic, but she was she worried about stuff, or she would somehow, like, I guess for lack of a phrase, be a little neurotic from time to time. Anxiety, yeah. And like, she quit smoking weed and all that went away. We haven't had a single disagreement in 100 days. Not that we used to fight or anything, but like, I've noticed a remarkable change for the better. And she was wonderful before, she's wonderful after. But like, the long-term effects of that stuff, in my opinion, you can't do something every single day, in my opinion, and it'd be good for you.
Yeah, moderation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, but like Joe Rogan, people take everything he says as gospel, and that's not healthy because he's right a lot, but sometimes he's just flat out wrong about stuff. And he pushes that stuff and talks about it a lot. And I think a lot of guys say like, oh yeah, stimulate your mind, find an alternate reality. It's like, well, everything in moderation is good for you, but like, I've got personal friends that have overdone the shit out of that stuff, and they're just not the same fucking person they were 3 years ago.
Same. I'm a lot of them, not a lot, but I have people I've known that are now on Instagram on it, posting like just rambling. Yeah. And you're like, dude, this is just alphabet soup.
Yeah.
Like, what are you getting at?
I know that right now you think when you did that it made sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Exactly. I mean, and that's where I think there is a benefit to it, like for guys that are on the edge to killing themselves, and they're like bottom of the barrel. Yeah. Yes, if that's what's going to help you, go do this. Yeah. There should be an a la carte of like, go try this, and that's what I did the first 2 years I was out.
What was the first thing you did?
I did the hyperbaric chamber.
Okay,
I did that, like 65 dives, and there was some benefit to it, but it definitely wasn't. I was like, something's going on here. And then I I did talk therapy, so I talked to a guy once a week, which is also beneficial. But I had a lot of like anger issues just with everything that happened with me. And then,
of course.
So I was like, you know what, man, I was depressed. And I think the turning point for me was my own daughter. Like I walked by her room and she just looked at me. She's like, I don't even want you to be in the house. Like, and it's not like I was yelling or anything like that. I just had a very depressive state. And so I was like, I can't get out of this. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go try it. And it did it.
The Ibogaine?
Yeah. And, I'm very good friends with Marcus Capone.
Yeah. Marcus is great.
Yeah. And so he,
I always laugh when I see the 6'5" seals.
dude,
It's like, how's that boat feel on your head?
Exactly. It's a short man's game.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I like Marcus a lot.
And it benefited me. I came back, and it was like, okay, I saw what I needed to see. It gave me like a foundation of like how I should feel. But here's the thing: that drug wears off, and for some people, including myself, when that drug wears off, you dip down right back into depression again.
Yeah.
And so I think the problem is that needs to be addressed. And like, hey, there are some cons that can happen here. And like when you dip down into depression, the answer isn't going to do it again right away. It's like you need the tools to keep that going without the drugs.
Right.
And
self-control. You need
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and that's easy to say, but
it is.
Like I think Jericho, he's done the Ibogaine and the ayahuasca. I think the ayahuasca was the thing that really helped him. Like they went down to Peru and did some ceremony, a multi-day thing, and that was pretty intense. I've done the super strong DMT.
Yeah.
With JT
5-MeO.
Yeah. And like I don't have any trauma. Like I really don't. Like I've had a really good, easy life. Went to private school my whole life. Came up, upper class family. Never had to worry about anything really. I've always known everything's going to be okay no matter what happens. And like basically, the real estate thing was, I would say, probably at the time the most traumatic thing that had ever happened to me. Like just getting sued and losing everything at 30 years old. And I did that, and what was interesting was like I didn't know that was a traumatic incident for me, really. And like I did the handshake, which lasted like 3 minutes, and then I was under for like 16 minutes, and I ended up forgiving all of those people, and that was the thing for me. And I was just like, shit, dude, I didn't realize I was hanging on to all that stuff and carrying it around with me. And there was like a little glow period after that for like a couple days, but like then life goes back to normal. And I did not have any desire to go
do it again.
No, none. Like, no, I wouldn't. And it's like, and like weed, like I'll eat mushrooms now. But I wouldn't smoke a joint for $10,000. I wouldn't smoke a joint for 20 grand.
Yeah. Is that just,
what's your number?
I don't think there is one, man. It has an effect on me that it doesn't have on other people. Like, borderline like psychotic episode type shit. Like I cannot.
Yeah.
It's none of that shit. Like I cannot touch it. I won't do it. None of that stuff. It absolutely, like if you were to take like a little tiny hit off a joint and you two and him over there as well and me, I'd be 5,000 times more fucked up than you guys.
There's some people.
It affects different people.
Their chemical makeup, especially with weed. I've seen it. I've seen guys go full blown psychosis for years.
Yeah, it makes me like, and like for the longest time, I was like, man, I think I smoked weed one time that was like laced with crack or something. I didn't have a clue.
You're like,
and
Smokey off Friday.
Yeah, I was like, man, like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, man, like, what is it about this stuff? And I think I was listening to a Rogan episode, and he was talking to some, I think he was talking like that doctor. What's his name? He's a mushroom guy. And they were talking about weed and like how some people it can make them have like psychotic episodes. It's like, oh shit, that's me. That's why I won't touch that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But like there are things out there. Like I think the whole thing with like marijuana and mushrooms, psilocybin, and all that stuff, you're basically fighting big pharma.
Yeah.
And until big pharma can figure out a way to monetize it, they're not going to give up their pills for things that come out of the ground. So like for example, my brother is a doctor, Mitchell, and Mitchell has not, nor will he ever prescribe an opioid under any circumstances. And he went and got a fellowship in pain management at Stanford so he doesn't have to prescribe opioids. Will not, under any circumstances, prescribe one. I had a really good friend, Jason Musk, that was hooked on Oxycontin for 10 years. Former Marine, big son of a bitch. 6'2", brick shit house. And you look at me like, like, how in the fuck has someone like you ever been addicted to anything? And he said, Baker, every person has a lock inside of them. And you just better hope to God you don't ever find that key. Because if you do, you're in trouble. And I was like, so how'd you kick it? He goes, they quit making them. So they made it where like you couldn't remove the time release. And then they made it where you couldn't smoke it. And that's how
he.
Yeah. And we were going turkey hunting. Driving down the highway at like 75 miles an hour. I was like, well, what would you do if there was 3 sitting on that dashboard right now? He goes, I'd jump out the window. Going 75, he goes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's all kinds of nutty shit going on. Power and money, man.
Yep.
Yeah, but dude, man, it's been awesome having you on, especially your experience of going through that. I love how you've taken your business, being a civilian, and then to me, you guys are kind of I'm be the opposite. I celebrate when guys have success. When
I do too.
When they're able to start a company, when they're able to just make it, but much more than make it, grow it and become successful, and then end up joining it with really altruistic, especially helping veterans, man. I mean, how much more?
Yeah, I celebrate people's success.
Yeah.
Like, there's people that, like, if your best friend in the world, like, ask yourself this, people listening, if your best friend in the world won $1 billion today, would he still be your best friend tomorrow?
Dude.
Or would you be a little bit envious and pissed? Because there's people that, like, I want everyone to win. Like, I just think it's rad. I don't get envious of other people, having success.
It's almost like people believe that, hey, other people's success means that you can't have success too. And I'm like, it's actually the opposite.
Right.
When you're around people that are celebrating, joining, helping, being involved in their success, it'll raise you up as well.
Oh, for a rising tide raises all ships, absolutely. There's like people that Cam Haynes gets it all the time. Like, must be nice.
Oh yeah.
It's like, or Evan or Matt, man, must be nice. It's like, do you know what they had to do to get to must be nice?
The amount of work.
Exactly.
It's not, yeah.
While you were watching sitcoms, I was like,
well, you're cussing people out on Twitter that you don't know,
Yeah, I was grinding.
Yeah, grinding your ass off, But it's, I think these things always work themselves out, and like life is cyclical. Like, if you look at our economy, our country from the day it was founded till today, like, things change. Some things change slower than others. And I think, in today's, the way things are, people want instantaneous acceptance of their ideas. So not long ago, like, no one knew what gay was. Like, people had no clue what, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, like, people didn't know what that was, and you have to give people like time. And I think one of the big problems is, like, you have to give people time to accept things and understand them on their own terms. You can't just say, hey, I was born a man, but I want to be a woman, and you have to accept me right now. And it's like, hold on, I don't understand what that means. I live in Broken Bow, Nebraska. I've never even heard of this. I don't even have a cell phone. Like, what are you talking about? Like, just let things evolve, and you have to let people understand things on their own time and their own terms, Because when you start forcing shit on people, and you want it instantaneously, that's when things start getting really, really freaking sideways.
And you also have to accept the fact that there are people that disagree with it, and you can agree to disagree. Yeah. Like, hey, man, I don't believe in that. I don't hate you. I just don't believe in that, and
I'm not going to participate.
But I'm not going to, like, I'm not like, fuck you, like, for being. I'm like, I just don't.
I'm not going to go out of my way to cause you problems.
Yeah.
And you don't go out of your way to force your beliefs on me.
Exactly.
That's all I ask, is just let's live our lives, independently, and you don't have to force stuff on me. I'm not going to force anything on you. Like, it's completely wild. Just stay off social media, man. You'll be fine. Yeah. I'm serious. Like, if you stay off social media, everything
will be.
It's like you see people like fighting on airplanes and shit.
I know.
Dude, I fly on airplanes.
I love watching those videos.
I do too. I fly on airplanes as much as anybody listening. I have never seen nor experienced any of that.
I know.
Ever.
I'm always waiting for it, too.
I know Kevin Reeves and I joke about that all the time. It's like, why can't that be my flight?
Every once in a while, I'll see somebody, like, start getting their butt hurt and, like, saying something. I'm like, oh, here it comes.
No, so I've never even had that. I've never had any of that. And it's, Kevin Reeves and I joke about that all the time. It's just like, come on, let this be the flight.
Yeah.
Let this be the flight where the guy's the asshole. Like, just, but yeah, it's just, I think that the media gets off on publishing the bad and never talks. Like, it's a challenge. Find a positive headline on CNN or Fox.
Yep.
Just one positive, uplifting, feel good story about something going on in this country, and it doesn't exist online.
It's funny. When I did an interview with Matt on Fox, they asked me that question, like, what do you think the issue is with, like, what's going on? This was 5 years ago. And I said, I was like, the problem is we have it so good in this country that people are making up problems to be pissed about. And I was like, that's how good we have it.
Come on.
You realize that the water that we shit in the morning is cleaner than most of the water the world has access to.
Yeah.
Like, there's a meme. It's that little fat kid in Africa, and he's looking at this, like, aid work, and he goes, you mean y'all got so much water that you shit in it every morning? Like, think about that for a second.
Oh, yeah, it's that kid.
Yeah. That's just, and that's that. And, like, things are so easy in this country right now. This is the easiest it's ever been, you know? And people, like you said, they look for reasons to be upset.
Yep.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Stay off social media.
Yeah,
Stay off of social media.
Dude, hey, I wish you and Evan and the whole, I hope you guys kill it. I hope you guys continue to grow. I hope you guys keep helping veterans. I hope you guys make tons of money and, like, are able to give back like you have been.
Yeah. We give back millions. Yeah. Millions. And it's not like, I don't mean like coffee and T-shirts. I mean like millions of cash. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to say how much money we spent on the withdrawal from Afghanistan. It was an obscene amount of money.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it was never published. I know what Evan Hafer personally spent out of his bank account, and that's more than most people will make in their lifetime. So, like, if you go through, and if you come to Salt Lake City and go into our roasting facility where we print all our T-shirts, and I were to blindfold you, and you're standing there, and I took the blindfold off, and I said, "Where are you today?" I'm in Kabul, because the amount of former, like, Afghani special forces guys that we have working for us and their wives in our shops, it's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super rad. Like, so if you look at Black Rifle hats, and you'll notice our patches are perfect. So most hats, if there's a patch on the front, it's a little bit off center, a little bit crooked. Ours are flawless because they're all hand sewn in Salt Lake City.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's super badass.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, for sure. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also congrats on getting Kill Cliff back.
Yeah.
That doesn't ever happen, man.
I know.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
That's
like
cool.
that's like a second lease on life, you know. It's like, man, I get another bite of the apple on this. This is, you know.
Well, that was your baby.
Yeah.
It's back.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
It's exactly what I need to make my life more complicated. You know, I don't have enough things going on. So, but no, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
No, brother, it was awesome having you. You're an awesome dude, man.
Yeah, y'all need to get Todd down here, the founder of Killcliff, to do an episode.
Yeah,
I'll introduce him.
Yeah, introduce me to him
for sure.
Yeah,
our brother.
Out.
All right, I have to pee. That was great. That was excellent.
Dude, good, man.
Yeah.